It's a pleasure to be here. As you said, I am Edward Hewis from All Ontario Hydro Seeding, and today we are going to be discussing engineered soil medias, biotic earth, hydraulic growth mulches, which essentially is liquid topsoil. And it is becoming more prevalent now with the implementation of the Excess Soil Act as of last January, that the moving of soil is not a method that the government likes. So the biggest problem that you have with construction is that during the construction process, the topsoils are often mixed with the aggregates and subsoils of it, which prevents you from rehabilitating the land without doing something like bringing in more topsoil. So the biggest issue that you have, other than the back of a dump truck, where did that imported soil come from? It probably came from a construction site somewhere, screened, and then shipped to your site. So is it soil or is it dirt? And without doing extensive soil testing, you don't really know. So primarily, what we're going to discuss is revegetating difficult soil. So after construction, how do you get revegetation of the earth to stop the erosion and sediment and everything else that is associated with it? Well, it's not just germinating the plant, it is long-term survival and sustainability. You can put all the seed down that you want and it's going to germinate, and that's due to that. But over the course of time, if there is not organic matter within the soil, it is not going to survive, and you keep doing the same thing. Okay, well, I'll add more seed, I'll do this, I'll do that. So you're putting, more money and effort into something that can be fixed quite readily. Okay, so it's long-term survival. And then sustainable revegetation of the product. So this is a picture of a solar farm that we did, and as you can see, the biotic earth was put underneath because the entire area was destroyed with the bulldozers and everything else putting in the solar farm. And then using a geomat, so the biotic earth went down first, the geomat went on over top of it, and now it was a combination project, and we had growth coming through it. So the current practices that we have, and you've seen it on every construction site, the crawlers come along and they strip off all the topsoil, they put it in a great big pile, and leave it there for 2 to 3 years. So during that period, there is little or no microbial action going on within that great big pile, and the soil gets compacted. The project is coming near completion. The builder now digs into that pile, screens it, throws it on the ground, and away it goes. And, well, we need a little more, so we're just going to go and buy some more just to top it up. Apply seed fertilizer and some type of erosion control, and maybe irrigate it or water it. And so I kind of refer to that as the hope and pray method. I hope and pray that this seed is going to germinate and do what I want it to do, as in regards to the erosion and sediment control, before the water, wind, and birds take away all my seed. So insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. And if you've ever tried to plant and you found why is it not growing? Odds are it's the soil that you're trying to plant it in. Over a given area, there are only so many nutrients within the soil area, and adding excess seed is just as detrimental as not adding enough, because there's only so many nutrients within a given area, and the plant will germinate, but then they will start competing for the nutrients that are in the soil. So stop treating soil like dirt. Okay, so this information comes from the BC Highways Department. So on-site topsoil shall be defined as what is existing. Okay, then imported topsoil, and they have specification what it is. But it comes out of a dump truck. So is that dump truck actually been specified? Where did it come? And you see it all the time on the side of the highways and the road, that there seems manufactured topsoil, which is the implementation of the compost and the soil from waste and municipal things. So how much topsoil do you need to haul in to do a job, right? Well, 3 inches of topsoil is somewhere between 69 and 100 truckloads per hectare. Okay, if you need 12 inches, it's 284 to 395, depending on, you know, the topography and that. So that's a lot of topsoil. And so, as I said, some of this comes from the BC. So here are some prices, and that topsoil supply in place, $22.02 a square meter. So it can add greatly to the cost of your project. So if you did an average of $32.69 per meter squared, 3 inches is going to add $36,000 to your project. If you need 4 inches, you're at $52,000. And without a comprehensive soil test, is it actually going to grow? You don't know. So in order to actually get pots to grow, you have to have organic matter. So this slide here just shows you what is the organic matter of a cross-section of a soil structure. So you only have about 5% organic matter. During the construction process, the surface soil and the subsurface soil get mixed. So the organic matter is greatly reduced. Okay? And this is just a whole pile of scientific stuff. I'm not really going to get into it, but it just shows you the breakdown of the compositions and stuff like that. I know the slide's not very good, but it's all I was able to get from the laboratory. So transporting topsoil, right? Conventional approach, a lot of dump trucks, and you only need that 5 to 7% of organic matter to bring back the existing soil. So using most engineered soil, like we have the Biotic Earth, which is just a trade name of that, you need about 4,000 kilograms per hectare versus 300 truckloads. So a lot. Okay, so if not topsoil, what are your options? Okay, municipal compost or the soil from waste through green bin. I believe they just started a green bin program in the Peterborough area this year recently. So you've got that, and that soil has to then be transported and that. And there are some disadvantages with using the compost from soil product, and the one being is that in order to turn all of your eggs and everything else that went in the green bin into dirt, they put in accelerators. And those accelerators, unfortunately, are detrimental to the germination process of a lot of seeds. So you have to give it time to air out, which, as long as that is exposed dirt, it has the potential for erosion and loss of area. And due to the high cost of it, there goes any maintenance budget that you've had for the planned project. So the Biotic approach asks if importing topsoil or compost really needed for establishing vegetation. Not really, because all you need is that additional 5 to 7% from, you know, organic matter. So the low carbon to nitrogen ratio, the high caution exchange capacity, water holding capacity, very long lasting in soils. So when hydraulically applied with a hydro seeder, right, you're putting on a very thin layer of the soil mixture over the existing soil and reintroducing the biotic or the organic material to the existing soil, hence not having to pay for the shipping of soils from places unknown. Okay? So one of the biggest misconceptions that people have is because most biotic soils or engineered growth medias use peat moss, is that, well, you're draining the peat swamp. Now, North America has sustainably harvested peat moss programs in place so that the peat mosses and that are not being depleted. Okay? So organic matter is only as good as the microbial life in it. So So going back to that big hill that has been sitting there for 2 or 3 years during the construction process, there is no microbial activity within the soil. So hence, other than that top 2 to 3 inches of that hill, the rest of that pile of soil is essentially dead. The Biotic Earth product does reintroduce the microbial materials and organic matter back into it. So the role of bacteria in the food cycle, nitrogen-fixing bacteria will make atmospheric nitrogen available to all plants, and nitrogen is a key source for growing things. Okay? So shredder bacteria will digest organic materials such as decaying roots, leaf litter, down into usable nutrients for the plants. So it goes on, and I'm sure a lot of you here have heard, when you're cutting your grass, don't bag it. If it's cut properly, let the clippings fall, they biodegrade, turn in, and now you do not require as much fertilizer or outside influences to create the grass. Okay, so the role of, I can't even pronounce it, sorry, my Latin sucks, in the food cycle. So a fungus that aids in the absorption of nutrients by forming a symbiotic relationship with the plant roots. In other words, roots on steroids. Okay, so your plant with the fungi and a plant cross-section without the fungi. The more root, the stronger the plant, the better the erosion and sediment control. Because it's the roots that hold everything in place. So if you have a strong root system, the sediment, turbidity, the erosion are all greatly reduced. And this is just a slide showing how the plant root, the fungi, and the soil interact with one another. And then within the food cycle, 90% of plants form a symbiotic relationship with the fungi. And as I said, today is just Veridol Biotic Earth, which is just a trade name for the hydraulic growth medium or engineered soil mediums or Biotic Earth. So don't get hung up on the trade names if you're looking at this product, because there's a half dozen of them out there. So rely on the person that you're talking to with regards to it. Okay, so the Biotic Earth is 60% peat moss, 40% strong flexible fiber, the bacteria and trichoglycosin and the micronutrients to return the organic material back into the earth without having the cost of shipping and topsoil. So once again, it's just showing you the symbiotic relationship and how it all just goes around in a big circle and just does itself here. Okay, so here are some pictures. So where would you use this product? Okay, so where there are minimal or no organics. Okay, so sand, very little organic. So how do you, control it? There is little or no soil structure, or it has been degraded. You have increased water storage with the product, and there's lifeless organic matter. So in other words, that big hill that the construction company made, that hill is dead. So you need to reintroduce the product. Okay, once again, the soil test report. We highly recommend to all of our clients that they get a soil test prior to any revegetating thing. It's not a large endeavor, but if the soil can't support the vegetation, you're just throwing good money after bad, and you will never get the result. And so when you're doing a project, one of the main things is to getting it signed off and closing out that project. So if you're having to go back and continuously reseed to try and get it to the level that the project demands, because the soil is incapable of sustaining the vegetation, there goes whatever profit as the contractor you've thought. So it's like reintroduce the organics into the soil, and you'll end up with a better product. Okay, so this is a project out in Alberta, which was Milner Ridge, which was basically a construction lake, and it was a sand soil structure. So The nice thing about the Biotic Earth product is one application fits everything, okay? You don't have to like, how much more, do I need more, do I need less? One application, and it's an application ready to be done. So there was the short-term success within the Milner Ridge. Here it is 13 weeks later. Here it is a year and a half later. So, and that was it. Right over the soil and sand structure. You know, nothing was brought in. It was just what they used from on site and away they went. Okay? So, quickly, after application, 7 years later, that kind of thing. This one was in Mission Reach, dead soil. Again, there. Pittsburgh, short-term growth on shale rock. Basically, there was nothing. It was rock blowing out from the side of to make a highway. They applied the Biotic Earth. There it is 2 years later. Okay, Dillingham, Arkansas, poor soil, organics, low fertility. The surface prep had biotic soil. Vegetation was the goal. As a topsoil alternative, they applied it. Then to control the sediment net, they then put a hydraulic growth medium or a bonded fiber matrix, which is essentially a liquid erosion control. So you're getting the benefits of the standard jute or straw erosion blankets, done with a hydroseeder, so there's not the aspect of having to nail it down or that, so it's an all-in-one process. And the plant goes through. So favorable initial growth allowed for quick project closeouts, so faster establishment, faster project closeout, permit termination, and little to no maintenance. Okay. We have different types of walls, so there's a vegetated wall. There it is again 2 years later. Just sprayed on and away it went. Okay, there's a road, little or no minimal soil amounts. 6 months later, 2 years later, or 6 years later. And there was no soil other than what was applied with the hydroseeder. Okay, so regardless of what erosion control prop type you're doing, whether it be mat, a green wall, you know, the structure, you still need to have organics to create the growth medium. And the Biotic Earth is a way of reintroducing the organics without the high cost of shipping truckloads of that. And as I said, once again, with the introduction of the Excessive Soil Act of January of this year, you know, you now have to have a chain of custody as to where that soil came from and what it was doing, because you don't want to know, like, okay, we fixed the gas station, here's your put it in, you know, no longer like clean fill, and where did that fill come from? They want to know, because it may have detrimental effects around everywhere else. Okay, so once again, it can be used with flex mat and the Biotic Earth, you know, or other mat. Here, you know, can you tell where the Biotic Earth was? Up top versus down below. They applied it. Okay, and once again, my name is Everett Hewis. I'm the General Manager for All Ontario Hydroseed. If anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Any questions? Got time for a couple questions for Ed? Anybody has any?
Yes.